back to another episode of MC Airsoft. My name is Mark, and today we're going to be talking about this. This is the 60th anniversary AK from CYMA. As you can see right there. Okay. I picked this up used from a buddy who does airsoft here for $100. They retail for $150 at the time of this video on e-bike. Haven't really seen this specific model anywhere else, but yeah, for $150 it's not bad, so we'll talk about it. So first off, specs out of the way. It's a full-size AK. Cool. If you don't know what to expect with that, go look at full-size AKs. All the lengths and measurements are available on the website. It isn't terribly heavy, but it is hefty. Certainly more hefty than like my M4 or Mark 18. Okay, not quite as hefty as the Mark 12. So it's a good heft for a rifle. You can call it assault rifle, rifleman's rifle, whatever you want to call it. It's select fire, so I'm going with assault rifle. But okay, so it's a decent weight. I don't know that I would recommend weight-wise that I would recommend it to like small children, something like that. It's also fairly tall. Like I stand 6 foot, and it goes from the top of my head down to about mid-thigh. So it is a fairly large rifle, okay? So keep that in mind. If you're playing CQB, maybe get the shorter one, okay? I don't know that they make an anniversary 74U or short variant, but maybe get a shorter AK if you want an AK. Like most AKs, and especially CYMA AKs, it shoots pretty well out of the box. Most of the rattle, by the way, for this video is from the dust cover because I don't have a battery in here. Normally the battery applies pressure and that doesn't rattle. Honestly, especially for CYMA, it's a fairly solid quality build, especially for $150. Don't expect perfect fit and finish out of the box. If you want that, spend $300-400. Okay. Expect what you're paying for, right? Okay. So normally it comes with your orange tip, the birdcage style flash hider, or at least that's what this had on it. It does have a quad rail system, which is nice. Reversible sling mount there, non-reversible sling mount in the back. Okay, that's nice. Foldable buttstock. You pull down and fold it. It's kind of nice, especially for storage. Personally, I don't like to shoot any rifles with a collapsed stock. So for me, that's more for storage, but it's a nice feature to have. It's easier to throw in a bag or in a backpack, gun case, whatever. So rifle bag, you know, it just makes life a little bit easier having a folding stock. But it is still fairly sturdy. The stock is plastic, but it's a fairly solid plastic. It's you know, an ABS or something nice and thick. So you could, you know, shoot it underarmed, which might think looks weird, but I prefer to chicken wing like that while I'm conducting my reloads. So, and that is plenty sturdy enough to be able to support the weight of the gun. So, not bad. Not bad there. The charging handle, also plastic. It's got the silver finish to it, and you can of course paint that. The hop up adjustment, for those of you who maybe are looking at this as your first AK, is down here. My recommendation is once you set the hop up, which is, I didn't turn on the lights. Okay. So right there. Okay, that little nub is your hop up, and what you can do is you can take a Sharpie and on the spring rod here, that is the rod that actually applies pressure to this button back here, which is your disassembly button. But on that rod, you can take a Sharpie and mark off where you want your hop up set. That way, in case it gets adjusted, you'll have a reference point. Right now, the hop up is set for 0.3s because that's mostly what I'm shooting right now. Out of both this and the Mark 18, and without a flat hop, the Mark 18 has a flat hop. Without even flat hopping this has about the same range. Not as good a consistency, but it has about the same range. With the hop up set for 0.3s, shooting 0.2s through my chrono, getting about 330 FPS. If you tone back the hop up, if you're actually shooting 0.2s, you would tone back the hop up and probably be more in the range of like 350, something like that. It's not bad, it's just not, at least this version is not running as hot as the website said. Now that might be particular to my, sample size of 1, but that's the experience I've had so far. Normal 14 by 1 negative threading, normal M4 threading, so any of your other attachments will fit on there. Right now I've got a 3D printed AK muzzle brake. Okay. It's something I 3D printed myself, along with the Zenico style charging handle lever, just for looks. Don't really need it. But yeah, it has a plastic quad rail. I keep saying plastic, by the way. That's what I'm gonna say. Is it some kind of high-tech polymer, nylon, whatever? Sure, maybe, cool. But plastic. They do feel pretty solid, I'll give them that. Haven't had really any issue shifting 0 for the red dot mounted up top. That's fine. There's no optics mounting rail. It did come with actually this grip, but I sanded the crap out of it. It came with one of those, finger groove grips, and personally, I hate those. So if you're like me, I would definitely recommend either sanding the crap out of it or just buying an aftermarket one. So yeah, I mean, all in all, it's not bad. The accuracy isn't amazing. The range is pretty good. I imagine if you put a tighter bore barrel in it, if you put a better hop-up bucking and nub in there, like, you're probably going to be pretty well off. Okay. So, because it's already got the range, you just need to tighten up the grouping a bit. So, all in all, it's a solid gun. You have the normal AK controls, safe, semi, or safe, full, and semi. So, I mean, if you're used to an AK, it's decent. Now, attachments-wise, pretty bland. If you've seen my other videos, or can just see from my Mark 18 in the background, which is my main go-to rifle, not really big on attachments on rifles. I go for what I need out of it. So like light red dot. This has some other aesthetics, but light red dot. So pretty simple. One thing to say, go with the low, if you're getting this one specifically with the stock, get the low profile mounts for your red dots, because as you're coming up, I can find the red dot right here. If I have a high profile mount, it's going to be away from your chin more. And that's another problem I have with AKs in Airsoft. There's plenty of mounting options in real steel, frankly in Airsoft as well for some of the more expensive options, but it's mounting optics on AKs suck. Even on the real ones, they've had to go through some pretty great lengths to be able to mount them where, you know, we would think of mounting them on an AR, right? For reference, you can see how much further forward the AK red dot is than my AR red dot, and that's even fairly far forward for an M4 red dot. Problem is with that, because you can find the dot just fine, the problem is that you have less field of view through your optic. So the closer, I'm gonna do something weird, the closer it gets to your eye, the more field of view you have through the optic. So if you come up a little off to one side and you don't see it, then you have to shift. I mean, it's just takes a little bit more time, takes some getting used to, especially with a, I'm gonna call this a wire stock. It's obviously plastic, but a thinner stock like this. One of my issues with this kind of stock is that when you bring your chin to it, because I'm used to, you know, I'm used to a cheek weld, right? Not a chin weld. Now I'm experimenting obviously with the Unity style mount. Okay, maybe I will end up liking that more and go over to or maybe I will be more used to a chin weld. That's fine. But for right now, it's still a little weird. The other issue is because this is so thin, when you lock it into your chin, your eye is going to be off to the other side. So when I lock this into my chin, my eye is too far this way, to my left. If you're a right-handed shooter, it'd be to the right. Now maybe wearing a face mask, things like that, maybe that would fix that. But I don't tend to wear face masks, right? So I'm too far off to one side, which means I'm gonna chase the dot and have to get off the stock in order to look down the scope. And then it's just a little wonky. If I was setting this up as more of like a DMR kind of thing with a magnified optic, that would be even worse, okay? Because then you're dealing with a lot more parallax and stuff like that. Okay, so that's one gripe. I wish they had at least included the optics rail, but you know, it was $100. So yeah, I'm gonna work through other mounting solutions for that. We'll see in the future. One thing that I'm going to be doing with this one in particular is I'll be converting it over to a RPK-16 style support weapon, because in games that don't allow support weapons, I can run it on semi-auto and use it like a normal rifle. And games that do allow support weapons, slap a mag or drum in there, and now you can perform those duties. So I'm going to be changing out pretty much all of this, maybe the dust cover, you know, some other things. So stay tuned for that if you want to see it. There's probably going to be a lot of modification required and things like that. I think this is a great beginner gun, as long as you don't mind the heft of it. For the price, again, 150 bucks. That does not include your battery charger and any extra magazines you might want. But for 150 bucks, it's a great starter platform because it's set up to evolve with you. It's like I said, it's already got a long barrel. It's got the decent range. Again, not great accuracy, but decent range. It's got all the mounting options you could hope for, other than something back here to mount a scope on. Okay, so all in all, it is a great beginner gun. Or if you're looking to buy your first AK and don't want the wood furniture, it's a great option. I would say if you needed loaner guns to give to people, it's a great option because while the magazines are fairly expensive, they do hold 120, 150 rounds or so. You can get less and you can probably get more. Or even high caps. High caps for AKs can hold up to like 600 rounds. And if you get like an RPK mag, you can get like 800 or 900 rounds, something in that range. So it's not bad. And it looks pretty good with these Lancer tactical mags from Airsoft GI. So it looks pretty good. It handles okay. I'm not a big fan of AK ergonomics, but it handles okay. It's got range. If you're loaning it out to someone and they break it, you're only out 150 bucks. And now you have salvageable parts, which is better than it could be, I guess. So, like, if you need a loaner gun, if it's your first gun, if it's your first AK, if you're just looking for a platform to upgrade, check this one out because it's not a bad option. Okay, so if you're looking for a ultra competitive, out of the box, lightweight, super accurate, okay, that keep in mind what you're getting for 150 bucks. Now keep reiterating that. This is a budget rifle. It will do budget rifle things. It does better than most budget rifles, in my opinion, at the same price point, but it's still a budget rifle. So, all in all, I do recommend it if you're looking for something like that. It is not a bad gun. Is it the best gun? No, but the best gun is also you could probably buy 4 of those for the price of the best out of the box AK, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. As far as batteries, you're limited, right? One of the reasons is the battery is in the dust cover. So if you're running nickel metal hydrides, I recommend something like this. This is an 8.4 1600 milliamp from Tenergy. This is what I was using in it primarily. Then we also, the one that it came with, which is, it's bad when it's, there it is, which is an 1100 milliamp 8.4. Okay. This one is, just says, or it's Cybergun. Okay. So this one's Cybergun, this one's Tenergy. Both of them fit pretty well. Okay. So, yeah, those are good options. The LiPo that I've been using in it is a 7.4 buffer tube LiPo. It's a 1450 from Airsoft GI, made by Echo One. It works pretty well. Keep in mind you're going to probably need a MOSFET in there, so keep that in mind battery wise or battery space wise. That is another big gripe I have about AKs in Airsoft, is manufacturers really need to start doing buffer tubes that are wired to the buffer tube, or figuring out a way to hollow out the handguard so you can put batteries in there, or when they come with the full stocks, it should be wired to the stock. Now, switching when in the modifications I make to make this a RPK 16 style, I will probably be replacing the stock and with something I can fit a battery into, wiring it through the stock, but I shouldn't have to, right? Now it has a folding stock, so on this one, sure, I should have to, but on a buffer tube one, on a full stock one, you shouldn't have to. It should be wired there already out of the box. So it's another big complaint I have is batteries. Magazines also pretty expensive for AKs compared to M4s. Now, if you're buying super high-end, PTS, whatever magazines, okay, then those are probably going to be more expensive than your AK mags. But if you're looking at getting mag or Elite Force branded magazines, then AK magazines are generally going to be more expensive. I bought mine through Airsoft GI. I think they were like 12 to 15 bucks, somewhere in that range. So keep that in mind for your budget. You can get high cap magazines slightly cheaper, generally speaking, but I absolutely hate high caps. So that's my personal opinion. If you don't mind high caps, just buy a couple high caps. Most of the time, unless they're fold over, your magazine pouches will fit AK mags. That's another reason I like the straighter mags. The straighter mags like this, okay, instead of the banana mags. They tend to fit in magazine pouches better. So that's something to consider as well if you're coming over from an M4 into an AK, or even just getting into things. M4 mags or mag pouches are generally cheaper. So, but yeah, all in all, good gun. I can't complain too much for the price point. So, with that being said, until next time, stay safe and stay hydrated.